Dr. Zixthera had been working as a space biologist for over 300 years. She had seen all kinds of tiny life forms from different planets. Most of them were smaller than a grain of sand. Some were like bacteria, others looked like tiny worms. Nothing really surprised her anymore. At least that's what she thought until that. Tuesday morning, when everything changed, the alarm bells were ringing all over Research Station Omega-7. Dr. Zixthera rushed from her lab, her forearms, carrying different scanning devices. Her blue skin was glowing brighter than usual, which always happened when she got excited or worried. The other scientists were running around, talking in quick, nervous voices. "What's happening?" she asked Commander Velkoth, her boss. He was a tall green creature with 6 eyes that could look in different directions at the same time. Right now, all 6 eyes were focused on a large screen showing something that made Dr. Zixthera's mouth drop open. "We found something big," Commander Velkoth said. His voice was shaking a little. "Really big. And it's alive." The screen was a damaged spaceship floating in the darkness of space. It wasn't like any ship they had seen before. It was much smaller than their own ships, but it looked strong and well built. Strange symbols were painted on its side, and there were windows that showed the inside was dark. "There's someone inside," the commander continued. "Something we've never seen before. It's huge compared to what we usually study. The creature is almost 2 meters tall and weighs about 70 kilograms. Can you believe that? 70 kilograms? It's bigger than most of our adult population." Dr. Zixthera felt her 2 hearts beating faster. In her world, most intelligent beings were small and light. She herself was only 1 meter tall and weighed about 20 kilograms. The idea of a creature that was almost twice her size and more, then 3 times her weight, was both scary and exciting. "We're bringing it to the station," Commander Velkoth said. "Creature is unconscious but alive. We've put it in a special sleep chamber to keep it safe. I want you to study it. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." Dr. Zixthera nodded, but inside she was nervous. She had spent her whole career looking at tiny things through microscopes. She had to examine something that was bigger than herself. She had to admit she was a little scared. A few hours later, she stood outside the examination room, holding her scanning tools. Through the thick glass window, she could see the creature lying on a special bed. It looked so strange and yet so familiar at the same time. It had 2 arms and 2 legs, just like her, but they were much longer and thicker. Its head was round with a flat face, and hair grew on top of it. The strangest part was its skin. It was a pale pink color, nothing like the blue, green, or purple skin of everyone she knew. "The creature came from a planet called Earth," said Dr. Klix, her assistant. Klix was smaller than Dr. Zixthera, with orange skin and big, curious eyes. "Our computers found some information about it in our old files. Apparently their people just started traveling to other planets recently. This one got lost and ended up near our space." Dr. Zixthera looked at the readouts from the medical machines. The creature's body temperature was much higher than theirs. Its heart was beating steadily, but only once every second, much slower than her own hearts that beat 3 times per second. Yet somehow, this slow heartbeat was keeping the huge creature alive and healthy. "Look at this," she whispered to Klix, pointing at the breathing monitor. "It only breathes 12 times per minute. How is that possible? We breathe 60 times per minute, and we're much smaller." The more she looked at the basic readings, the more confused she became. Everything about this creature seemed to work differently from what she knew. Its body was using energy in ways that didn't make sense. It was like looking at a machine that shouldn't work, but somehow did. "Should we wake it up?" Klix asked. "Not yet," Dr. Zixthera replied. "First, I need to understand what we're dealing with. Let me run some tests while it's sleeping. I want to know how this thing stays alive before we talk to it." She spent the next few hours setting up her equipment. Usually she worked with creatures so small, she needed special microscopes to see them. Now she needed completely different tools. Everything had to be bigger, stronger, and more powerful. It was like learning to be a scientist all over again, as she prepared for the first real test. Dr. Zixthera couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. Not just for her, but for everyone in their part of the galaxy. They had always thought that intelligent life would be small and delicate like themselves. But here was proof that intelligence could come in packages much larger and stranger than they had ever imagined. The creature, this human, as their files called it, was still sleeping peacefully. It didn't know that in a few hours it would shock an entire space station full of scientists with secrets hidden inside its own body. Secrets that would make Dr. Zixtera question everything she thought she knew about life in the universe. She took a deep breath and started her first scan, having no idea that she was about to discover something that would make her famous throughout the galaxy. Dr. Zixtera stared at her computer screen in complete shock. The numbers dancing across the display couldn't be real. She rubbed her 4 eyes and looked again, but the results were still the same. Something was seriously wrong with her equipment. It had to be broken. "This is impossible," she whispered to herself, tapping the screen with one of her thin fingers. The machine was telling her that the human's brain had over 86 billion nerve connections. That number was so huge it made her head spin. For comparison, her own brain, which everyone said was pretty smart, only had 12 billion connections. She walked around her lab 3 times, checking every wire and button on her scanning machine. Everything looked perfect. The machine was working fine when she tested it on herself an hour ago. So why was it giving such crazy results now? "Maybe I should run the test again," she said out loud, talking to herself like she always did when she was confused. She positioned the scanner over the sleeping human's head and pressed the start button. The machine hummed quietly for 10 minutes, taking thousands of pictures of the brain inside the creature's skull. When the results appeared, Dr. Zixtera nearly fell over. The numbers were exactly the same. 86 billion nerve connections, all packed into a brain that was only about 3 pounds. That was like fitting an entire city's worth of telephone lines into a space the size of a small melon. "Clicks," she called to her assistant. "Come here right now." Click scurried over, carrying a cup of hot liquid that smelled like flowers. "What's wrong, doctor? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Look at this." Dr. Zixtera pointed at the screen. "Tell me what you see." Click squinted at the numbers and nearly dropped his cup. "That can't be right. No living thing could have that many brain connections. Creature would need a head the size of a small planet to fit all that inside." But the brain scan was just the beginning. Dr. Zixtera decided to check the human's blood system next. She expected to find something normal, maybe a simple heart pumping blood through a few basic tubes. What she found instead made her question everything she knew about biology. The scanner revealed an incredibly complex network of blood vessels running through every inch of the human's body. Dr. Zixtera counted them carefully, then counted again because she couldn't believe the results. The human had over 60,000 miles of blood vessels inside its body. 60,000 miles. That was enough tubing to wrap around her home planet twice, and still have some left over. "How is this possible?" she asked Clicks, who was now staring at the screen with his mouth hanging open. "How does the heart pump blood through so many vessels?" The pressure needed would be enormous. They zoomed in on the human's heart, and Dr. Zixtera gasped. It was nothing like the simple hearts she was used to studying. This heart had 4 separate chambers, each one pumping with perfect timing. The muscle walls were thick and strong, contracting with enough force to push blood through all those thousands of miles of vessels. "Look at this pressure reading," Clicks whispered, pointing to a number on the screen. If this heart wanted to, it could spray blood 30 feet into the air. "That's like having a water cannon inside your chest." Dr. Zixtera shook her head in amazement. In her world, hearts were simple organs that barely had enough power to move blood a few inches. This human heart was like a powerful engine that never stopped working. Next, she decided to scan the creature's muscles. Surely this would be more normal. After all, muscles were just muscles, right? How complicated could they be? Wrong again. The scanner showed the human had over 600 different muscle groups scattered throughout its body. Dr. Zixtera only had about 150 muscles in her entire body. She thought that was a lot. But the number of muscles wasn't even the most shocking part. Each muscle group was incredibly strong, according to her calculations. The human's muscles could lift objects that weighed 20 times more than the creature itself. If the human weighed 70 kilograms, it could potentially lift 1,400 kilograms. That was like lifting a small spacecraft with your bare hands. This doesn't make sense, Dr. Zixthera said, pacing around the room. No creature needs to be this strong. What kind of planet did this thing come from? A world made of solid rock? Oh. She pulled up the files about Earth that their computers had found. According to the information, Earth was actually a pretty normal planet. It had oceans, forests, and mountains, just like many other worlds. The gravity was a bit stronger than our home planet, but not enough to explain why humans needed such powerful bodies. Maybe the scan is picking up some kind of armor or mechanical parts inside the creature, Click suggested. Maybe humans aren't natural beings. Maybe there's some kind of biological robots. Dr. Zixthara ran a special scan that could detect any metal or artificial materials. The results showed nothing but natural, organic tissue. The human was completely biological. No machines, no artificial parts, no external armor. Everything the scanner was detecting was just natural. Body parts that had grown that way. She sat down in her chair and tried to make sense of it all. The human's brain had the computing power of a supercomputer. Its blood system was more complex than the plumbing in their entire space station. Its muscles could generate enough force to bend metal bars. And somehow, all of this was packed into a body that was only 2 meters tall. I need to test everything again, she finally said. Every single measurement. Because either our equipment is completely broken, or we've discovered the most impossible creature in the universe. As she prepared to run all the tests for a third time, Dr. Zixthera couldn't help but wonder what other surprises this sleeping human was hiding. If the basic scans were this shocking, what would she find when she looked deeper? The human continued sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that it was breaking every rule of biology that Dr. Zixthera had ever learned. Dr. Zixthera hadn't slept in 2 days. She couldn't stop staring at the test results from the human's digestive system. Every time she thought she understood something about this creature, it surprised her with something even more incredible. Clicks. Come look at this, she called to her assistant, who was organizing sample containers on the other side of the lab. I just finished scanning the human stomach and digestive organs. You're not going to believe what I found. Clicks walked over, rubbing his tired eyes. They had both been working around the clock, trying to understand this mysterious creature. What now, Doctor? More impossible numbers? Dr. Zixthera pointed to her screen, which showed a detailed picture of the human's digestive system. Look at this stomach. It's like a chemical factory that can process almost anything organic. Our people can only eat about 12 different types of food safely. But according to these scans, humans can digest hundreds of different food types. She pulled up a list on her computer. They can eat fruits, vegetables, grains, meat from different animals, dairy products, nuts, seeds, and even some things that would poison us immediately. Their stomach produces acid that's strong enough to dissolve metal, but somehow it doesn't hurt them. Clicks leaned closer to the screen. That's not possible. How does their stomach not dissolve itself? That's the amazing part, Dr. Zixthera said, getting excited. Their stomach creates a special protective coating that rebuilds itself every few days. It's like having a self-repairing container that can hold the strongest acid in the universe. But the stomach was just the beginning. The more she studied the human's digestive system, the more amazed she became. The creature had something called a liver that was doing the work of an entire chemical processing plant. Look at this liver, she said, zooming in on the scan. It's performing over 500 different chemical reactions at the same time. 500. Our livers can barely handle 20 reactions, and we think that's impressive. The human's liver was cleaning toxins from the blood, making proteins, storing energy, producing bile to help digest fats, and doing dozens of other jobs all at once. It was like having a master chemist working inside the body 24 hours a day, never taking a break. And here's the really crazy part, Dr. Zixthera continued. If part of the liver gets damaged, it can grow back. It can literally rebuild itself. We've never seen anything like it in any other species. Next, she decided to examine the human's lungs. She expected to find simple air sacs, maybe 100 or so, like most creatures had. What she discovered made her question everything. She knew about breathing. "Clicks, are you sitting down?" she asked. "Because you might want to sit down for this." The scan showed that each human lung contained about 150 million tiny air sacs. Together, both lungs had 300 million air sacs. If you could unfold all these air sacs and lay them flat, they would cover an area about the size of a tennis court. "A tennis court," Dr. Zixera exclaimed. "They have a tennis court's worth of breathing surface folded up inside their chest. No wonder they can be so active and energetic." But it wasn't just the size that impressed her. The efficiency was incredible too. The human lungs could extract almost all the oxygen from each breath, wasting almost nothing. Dr. Zixthara's own lungs were only about 30% efficient, which she had always thought was pretty good. "And look at this breathing pattern," she said, showing Clicks the readouts. "They breathe slowly and deeply, getting maximum oxygen with minimum effort. It's like they have the perfect breathing machine built into their body." The more she studied the human's metabolism, the more she realized how perfectly everything worked together. The heart pumped blood to carry oxygen from the lungs. The digestive system broke down food and sent nutrients through the blood. The liver cleaned everything and made sure the chemistry stayed balanced. It was like watching a perfect symphony where every instrument played in harmony. "But here's what really blows my mind," Dr. Zixthera said, pulling up another screen. "Look at how much energy this creature can produce when it needs to." The scans showed that during times of stress or danger, the human body could increase its energy output by 10 times or more. The heart could beat faster, the lungs could work harder, and the muscles could become incredibly strong for short periods. "It's like they have a turbo boost button built into their biology," she explained to Clicks. "When they need extra power, their whole body transforms into a high-performance machine." Dr. Zixthera had read stories about humans lifting cars too, save trapped people, or running incredible distances when being chased. She'd always thought these were just myths. Now she could see exactly how their bodies made such feats possible. "And the best part," she continued, "is that they can do all this while using very little energy most of the time. They're resting. Metabolism is incredibly efficient. They can go hours without eating and still function perfectly." She compared this to her own species, who needed to eat small amounts of food every hour to keep their energy levels stable. Humans could eat one large meal and have energy for the entire day. Some could even go days without food if necessary. "I'm starting to think," Dr. Zixera said quietly, "that humans aren't just another intelligent species. They're like biological masterpieces. Every system in their body is designed for maximum efficiency and incredible performance." Clicks nodded, looking at all the data spread across multiple screens. "It's like someone took the best features from 100 different species and combined them into one perfect creature." Dr. Zixthera saved all her research and sat back in her chair. She had studied thousands of life forms from dozens of planets, but nothing came close to the biological sophistication of this sleeping human. Tomorrow, she would start testing the creature's brain function, and she had a feeling that would be even more surprising than what she had already discovered. The human continued sleeping peacefully, its incredible body performing thousands of complex processes every second, completely unaware that it was rewriting the textbooks on what was possible in biological engineering. Dr. Zixthara had saved the most important test for last. After 3 days of studying the human's body systems, she was finally ready to examine its brain in detail. She thought she was prepared for anything after all the shocking discoveries she had already made. She was completely wrong. "Today we're going to scan the brain activity," she told Clicks, as they prepared the most advanced brain scanner in their entire space station. "I want to see how this creature thinks and processes information." The machine hummed to life, sending invisible waves through the human skull to map every single brain cell in connection. Dr. Zixthera expected the scan to take a few minutes like it did with other creatures. Instead, the machine kept running for over an hour. "Why is it taking so long?" Clicks asked, tapping the side of the scanner. "I think," Dr. Zixthera said slowly, watching the progress bar creep forward. "It's because there's just so much to scan. Remember, this brain has 86 billion connections. The machine has to map every single one." When the scan finally finished, Dr. Zixera stared at the results in complete silence. The human brain wasn't just big, it was doing things that seemed impossible according to everything she knew about how brains worked. "Look at this," she whispered, pointing to patterns of activity flowing across the screen like rivers of light. "The brain is creating new connections while we watch. 700 new connections every single second, even while the human is sleeping." In her world, brains were fixed. You were born with a certain number of connections, and that was it for your entire life. But this human brain was constantly rewiring itself, building new pathways and strengthening old ones based on experiences and memories. "It's like having a computer that rebuilds its own circuits every day," Click said in amazement. "No wonder humans learn so quickly." But the learning ability was just the beginning. Dr. Zixera discovered that the human brain stored memories differently than any other species she had studied. Instead of keeping memories in one specific place, the human brain scattered each memory across multiple areas and then connected them together. "This is genius," she said, tracing the memory patterns on her screen. "If one part of the brain gets damaged, the memories are still safe in other areas. It's like having backup copies of backup copies." She calculated the total storage capacity of the human brain and nearly fell off her chair. The numbers showed that a single human brain could store the equivalent of 2.5 petabytes of information. That was more data than their entire space stations' computer system could hold. "How much is 2.5 petabytes? Clicks asked. Dr. Zixera did some quick math. "If you watched videos 24 hours a day for your entire life, you still wouldn't fill up a human brain's storage capacity. They could store 3 million hours of video in their heads. But storage was only part of the story. The human brain was incredibly efficient with energy. Dr. Zixera's own brain used about 40% of her body's total energy. The human brain, despite being vastly more complex, only used about 20% of the body's energy. It's like having a supercomputer that runs on the same power as a small light bulb," she explained to Clicks. "The efficiency is off the charts." Then she discovered something that made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligence. The human brain had special areas dedicated to something called emotions. These weren't just simple reactions, like fear or hunger. The human brain could experience complex feelings like love, guilt, hope, and compassion. "But here's the really incredible part," Dr. Zixera said, zooming in on specific brain regions. "Humans can use these emotions to override their survival instincts. They can choose to help others even when it puts them in danger." She had read reports about humans jumping into dangerous situations to save strangers or soldiers protecting their friends at the cost of their own lives. She had always assumed these were just stories. Now she could see the exact brain mechanisms that made such selfless behavior possible. "Look at this decision-making center," she said, highlighting. "An area of the brain can weigh dozens of different factors in seconds and come up with creative solutions to problems. But the amazing thing is, it can be influenced by moral values and emotions, not just logic." This was completely different from her own species, who made decisions based purely on logical calculations. Humans seem to have found a way to combine logic, emotion, creativity, and moral values all into one decision-making process. Dr. Zixera ran a test to measure the brain's processing speed. The results showed that the human brain could handle multiple complex thoughts simultaneously. It could think about a math problem, remember a childhood memory, plan tomorrow's activities, and feel emotions about a friend, all at the same time. It's like having multiple computers running different programs. But somehow they all work together perfectly, she told Clicks. No interference, no conflicts, just smooth multitasking. But perhaps the most amazing discovery was the human brain's ability to imagine things that didn't exist. Dr. Zixera found entire brain regions dedicated to creativity and imagination. The human could think about impossible scenarios, create art, write stories, and even dream up new inventions. This explains so much, she said, looking at the creativity centers lighting up on the scan. This is how they developed space travel. So quickly. They can imagine possibilities that don't exist yet. then figure out how to make them real. She spent hours studying the pattern of connections that made human creativity possible. It was like watching magic happen inside the brain. The creature could take random thoughts, memories, and ideas, mix them together in new ways, and create something completely original. "I need to document all of this," Dr. Zixthera said, saving terabytes of brain scan data. "The Galactic Federation needs to know what we're dealing with here. Humans aren't just intelligent, they're a completely new form of intelligence that we've never encountered before." As she finished her analysis, Dr. Zixthera realized she had been studying more than just a biological specimen. She had been examining the most sophisticated thinking machine in the known universe, wrapped up in a package that the humans themselves probably thought was completely ordinary. The sleeping human had no idea that its brain was performing computational feats that challenged the fundamental understanding of what biological intelligence could achieve. Tomorrow, when the creature woke up, Dr. Zixthera would finally get to meet the mind behind all these incredible capabilities. The moment Dr. Zixthera had been waiting for finally arrived. After 4 days of studying the most incredible biological specimen she had ever encountered, the human was beginning to wake up from its long sleep. She watched through the observation window as the creature's eyes slowly opened. They were a bright blue color, unlike anything she had seen before. Most beings in the galaxy had black or dark eyes, but these human eyes seemed to sparkle with curiosity and intelligence. The human sat up slowly, looking around the room with confusion but not fear. This surprised Dr. Zixthera. Most creatures would panic when waking up in a strange place surrounded by alien technology, but this human seemed calm, almost fascinated by its surroundings. "Hello," the human said, in a language that their computers quickly translated. "I'm guessing I'm not on Earth anymore." Dr. Zixthera activated the communication system. "Greetings, human. I am Dr. Zixthera, a biologist from the Galactic Federation. You were found drifting in space, and we brought you here to help you. What is your name?" "I'm David Chen," the human replied. Standing up and stretching, Dr. Zixthera was amazed at how gracefully he moved, every muscle working in perfect coordination. "I'm an astronaut and xenobiologist from Earth. My ship had some technical problems, and I guess I got a bit lost. You're a biologist too?" Dr. Zixthera asked, her excitement growing. "That's perfect. I have been studying your species, and I have so many questions." David smiled, and Dr. Zixthera noted that this facial expression seemed to indicate friendliness and pleasure. "I'd be happy to answer your questions. But first, can you tell me where I am and what you've learned about humans?" Over the next few hours, Dr. Zixthera explained all her discoveries. She showed David the brain scans, the metabolic tests, and all the incredible measurements she had taken. With each revelation, David's eyebrows raised higher and higher. "You're telling me my brain has 886 billion neurons?" David asked, looking at the scan results. "I knew it was complex, but I never thought about the actual numbers." "Not just complex," Dr. Zixthera said. "Impossible. According to everything we know about biology, a brain that's sophisticated should require enormous amounts of energy and space. But somehow, humans have compressed supercomputer-level processing into a 3-pound organ." David laughed, a sound that the translation computer registered as indicating amusement and joy. "Most humans don't really think about what their bodies can do. We just take it for granted." This statement shocked Dr. Zixthera more than any of her test results. "You take it for granted? You have the most sophisticated biological system we've ever encountered, and you think it's normal?" "Well, yeah," David said, shrugging. "Everyone I know has the same basic body design. We figured if we could do it, it couldn't be that special." Dr. Zixthera realized she was witnessing something incredible. Here was a species that had achieved biological perfection, but didn't even realize it. They had brains more powerful than supercomputers, bodies more efficient than the best machines, and metabolisms that could adapt to almost anything. But they thought of themselves as just ordinary. "Let me show you something," David said, pulling out a small device from his pocket. It was a handheld computer that he had been carrying when they found him. "This is one of our basic tablets. Most humans carry something like this." He activated the device and began showing Dr. Zixthera pictures and videos from Earth. She watched in amazement as humans climbed mountains, swam across oceans, built incredible cities, created beautiful art, and solved complex problems. This is just everyday life for us, David explained. We don't think of it as extraordinary. We see people doing amazing things all the time. Doctors performing surgery, teachers helping children learn, engineers building bridges, artists creating masterpieces. But don't you realize, Dr. Zixthera said, that each of these activities requires the precise coordination of billions of brain cells, hundreds of muscles, and countless chemical reactions. Every time a human walks across a room, they're performing calculations more complex than landing a spacecraft. David paused, looking thoughtful. I never thought about it that way. We just learn to walk as children and then never think about the mechanics behind it. Dr. Zixthera spent the next several hours teaching David about his own biology. She showed him how his eyes could process millions of visual inputs simultaneously, how his ears could distinguish between thousands of different sounds, and how his brain could learn new languages in a matter of hours. Watch this, she said, beginning to teach David some basic words in Galactic Standard. Within 2 hours, David was having simple conversations in a completely alien language. This learning speed is impossible by our standards. Most of our people need months to learn a new language. It's just pattern recognition and memory association, David said modestly. Nothing special? Nothing special? Dr. Zixthera couldn't believe what she was hearing. You just demonstrated cognitive abilities that our most advanced artificial intelligence systems can't match, and you call it nothing special? As their conversation continued, Dr. Zixthera began to understand something profound. Humans had become so accustomed to their own capabilities that they couldn't see how extraordinary they were. They lived with biological supercomputers in their heads, chemical factories in their bodies, and engineering marvels in their muscles, but they considered it all perfectly normal. I have to ask, Dr. Zixthera said, do humans realize they're probably the most biologically advanced species in the galaxy? David looked genuinely surprised. Are we? We always assumed that if other intelligent species existed, they'd probably be more advanced than us. We're pretty new to space travel, after all. Space travel is just technology, Dr. Zixthera explained. But biology is fundamental. You've achieved something that evolution rarely produces. A perfect balance of intelligence, physical capability, adaptability, and efficiency, all in one organism. She pulled up her final report on the computer screen. I'm submitting a paper to the Galactic Federation with a new classification for your species. We're calling you biological impossibilities, creatures that shouldn't exist according to known scientific laws, but somehow do. David read through the report, his eyes widening as he saw himself described as an evolutionary miracle. This is going to change how humans see themselves, he said quietly. We've always focused on our limitations and problems. We never stopped to appreciate what we could do. That might be the most remarkable thing about your species, Dr. Zixthera said. You've achieved biological perfection, but you're still humble enough to keep learning and growing. Most species would become arrogant with such capabilities. As David prepared to contact Earth with the news of first contact, Dr. Zixthera realized that meeting him had changed her as much as her research had probably changed him. She had started this study thinking she was examining an unusual biological specimen. Instead, she had discovered that humans represented the pinnacle of what life could achieve in the universe. Thank you, David said as he prepared to leave. You've given me a new appreciation for being human. Thank you, Dr. Zixthera replied. You've shown me that the impossible is just waiting to be discovered. The human walked away completely, unaware that he was the most sophisticated biological machine in the known universe, casually carrying a brain more powerful than the computers that ran entire star systems. In a body that could adapt to almost any challenge life could present,